Can you guys hear me okay? How's the sound? Cool. Well, it's 6:06. I'm ready to get started if y'all are. All right. Well, welcome and thank you all for coming to our first, I think, public State of the City. We've often done them for the Broomfield Chamber. So that's a smaller audience. And I thought we have such great things to share. Let's broaden the audience and have everybody hear what we've been up to. So thank you for coming and thank you for everyone that's watching from home. I'm Mayor Guyleen Castriata, and I'm excited to present to you this update on our community in the Broomfield State of the City. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize my fellow council members in attendance. We have Councilmember Bruce Leslie, Ward 4, Councilmember Jean Lim from Ward 3, and Mayor Pro Tem Schaaf is here, and Councilmember Lori Anderson from Ward 4. And also thank you to our staff for putting all this together for us. We appreciate you. So I'm proud to report that Broomfield is on a solid foundation, both economically and as a community. We have set and are maintaining a strategic approach to solidify a financial and sustainable future in 2024. As your mayor, I am honored to serve you through these times. Broomfield's population is still growing. We're quickly approaching 78,000, with Broomfield seeing the largest percentage of population growth of all Colorado counties at over 35% since 2010. The 2020 census also indicates the biggest age demographic change is among residents 65 and over. This age group is now over 15%, up from nearly 10% in 2010. While at the same time, our share of residents under the age of 18 is over 20%. So the young groups are growing too. These demographics drive our policy decisions and plan for the future. It's also noteworthy that Broomfield's seasoned population is active, engaged, and looking to stay involved in their community. So planning to create those opportunities are well underway. No surprise, our community is highly educated and productive, with nearly 60% of our residents over 25 having a bachelor's degree or higher. And meanwhile, our community median income is just over $117,000, which is 34% higher than the state. 64% of our families own their homes, and a growing 36% are renters. On that note, the average home value in Broomfield is now nearly $600,000. So that means income-aligned housing stock is even more critical to Broomfield. And we'll have more on that in a minute. Next slide, please. Those of us who live and work here know that Broomfield is a place that's known to be inclusive and thriving. We're a place of parks and open space, education and opportunity, and a place that is fiscally and economically successful. Speaking of that, Money Magazine ranked Broomfield County the 4th healthiest county to live in 2023, outranking 3 other counties in the state, even Boulder. Our community has values and priorities, but we're also constantly evolving. So these priorities you see here are the foundation and starting point for what comes next and how we meet the challenges and opportunities. I'd like to highlight a few of these by showing you what's been happening in our community. Next slide, please. So in our 2023 community survey, 50% of respondents rated fiscal sustainability and resilience as the top community goal. Broomfield saw a diversification of its tax base and revenue sources in 2023 by supporting businesses and activities which increased sales and use tax revenue at a rate above Broomfield's residential growth. This helps ensure the programs and services that the city and county provide to our residents can remain strong. By encouraging business growth in new and relocated firms for employment, the city and county met the target goal in the jobs to household balance at 1.3 jobs per household. In the area of catalytic development, there was movement in 3 ongoing projects of the Flatiron Development, Baseline Development, and Broomfield Town Square. All 3 projects already have approved site development plans, so we've approved them. And now it's up to the developers to start the progress with construction or continue. I will add, though, that we did get some news that development has slowed down due to the high interest rates, construction costs. So many of the projects that we have green lighted they're in the pipeline. They may not start this year or as soon as we would like until the market gets a little more stable. So you may have also read about the changes that'll be coming to the event center. The city council approved the direction for the demolition of the event center in December. The request for qualifications or RFQs was put out in February, and the goal is to select a contractor for pre-construction activities around the end of April. So we'll be getting more news on that soon. You can find more information on this project on the Event Center redevelopment page on broomfield.org. And finally, Broomfield's bond rating improved to a AA1 for our sales and use tax revenue bonds. This reflects the government's ability to repay debt and debt-like obligations without consideration of any pledge, security, or structural features. This is the second highest rating a municipality can achieve. Next slide, please. Broomfield continues to look at reducing its carbon footprint. We have seen successes with the first residential solar co-op program, enabling households to gain access to rooftop solar installations at a negotiated group rate. And I believe they're starting a second round of that now. Councilmember Jean Lim took part in it. City Council reviewed options for increasing residential waste diversion and directed staff to begin a request for proposal for city contracted waste, recycling, and compost services. The contract is planned to come before the City Council for review later this year. So that's where we are with that. We haven't seen any of the costs or estimates, so we haven't made any decisions yet. There are multiple sustainable water utility operations now in place in Broomfield. A new turf replacement program was rolled out in 2023. The City Council approved a new landscape ordinance, one of the strongest in the state, which will promote native and more water-wise landscaping in new development throughout Broomfield. I know Anthem Ranch is already walking the walk on that. A water reclamation system is now being used to reuse treated wastewater to irrigate parks, HOA green spaces, and other areas. These and other water conservation programs netted a water savings of more than 5 million gallons, which exceeds total water savings in 2022 by 22%. And staff continues to work with the oil and gas operators to reduce emissions related to the pad operations and maintenance activities. Through the efforts of our Public Works Fleet Division, the City and County of Broomfield was awarded the 2023 Partners of the Year by Drive Clean Colorado, being recognized for longstanding peer leadership and for constructive feedback on grants and incentives that have helped improve the process and program for fleets and municipalities throughout the state. We're proud of our Public Works team. And aren't they doing a great job with the snow removal? I haven't gotten any complaints, so keep it that way. In the area of transportation, next slide, please, and planning, all land development proposals will be reviewed to ensure accessibility and multimodal connectivity to those site plans. Bike and ride shelters were constructed at the Flatiron and Broomfield stations. Broomfield secured funds to advance projects such as the design of Midway Boulevard as a multimodal corridor and the pre-construction activities on Colorado 7 from Brighton to Boulder. We are hoping to have starter service on Highway 7 starting in 2025-26. In traffic engineering, 10 pedestrian crossings and 8.5 miles of bicycle facilities were improved, and 100% of signalized intersections are operating at a high level of service. Next slide, please. In the 2023 community survey, we saw that 80% of respondents gave the overall quality of city and county services an excellent or good mark, which ranks Broomfield in the much higher category of the national and Front Range benchmarks. There were several areas in which we strove to make our community thriving, diverse, and safe. The housing needs assessment was completed in 2023, and its focus is on ways to preserve current income-aligned housing stock, prevention of displacement through programmatic efforts, and development of more income-aligned housing in both for-rent and for-sale markets. In the past year, over 200 new income-aligned units have opened in our community. We hope to have many more. There are many opportunities to attain and maintain a state of mental well-being in Broomfield. There was a distribution of over 500 kits of Narcan and opioid overdose reversal medication. More than 160 community members participated in mental health or substance use training through the Community Initiated Care Project. And the Regional Mental Health Ambassadors Program reached approximately 2,000 Broomfield community members with stigma reduction messaging and outreach efforts. Our emergency management staff continues to develop program priorities and resource allocation for emergency and disaster planning and response. To assist the community in these incidents, the Emergency Preparedness web section on broomfield.org was published in 2023. Next slide, please. Part of the Open Space and Trails Department's mission is to create a comprehensive trail system that allows for the enjoyment of the outdoors and promotes a healthy environment for people, nature, and the community. I have a lot of stats coming at you. So our Open Space Trails and Parks team oversees a total of 8,607 acres of public and private open lands. That includes 1,163 acres of public and private parks and recreation, 5,465 acres of public and private open lands, and 1,979 acres of other open lands like golf courses and cemeteries. We have seen over the last year how many folks in our community are out there enjoying nature. In fact, the 2023 community survey said 92% of survey participants rated the quality of Broomfield's open space, trails, and parks as good or excellent. 9 out of 10 survey participants had visited a park, open space, or trail in the last year, and we had 76 volunteers contribute their time to our open space and trails events and public education outreach. Moving on, next slide, please. Our Broomfield Police Department. They know how important it is to connect with you and our community, and in order to better serve you, they have hosted many different types of engagement events to appeal to different interests, age groups, and priorities in our community. Throughout the year, the police department hosts her own hero self-defense classes, which teach both basic and advanced self-defense. 6 basic classes and 4 advanced classes are scheduled for 2024, and they're always well attended. Broomfield Police Department also participates in several events, including the Women's Safety event and National Night Out. More than 100 women of all ages attended this year's women's event at the Broomfield Community Center. And National Night Out typically draws anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 residents. We got a little rained out last year. I'm hoping for better weather. It was right when I got there. The police department honored breast cancer awareness with pink badges and patches, and all proceeds from the sale of the patches was donated to the Colorado Breast Cancer Awareness Fund. Coffee with a Cop events are once a quarter at local coffee shops throughout Broomfield. And this is a great opportunity for our officers to visit with residents in a casual environment, as well as the Christmas and Valentine's events, which are always well attended. In 2023, BPD distributed more than 500 anti-theft kits to residents as part of the catalytic converter anti-theft campaign. And as you've probably seen on the news and in Broomfield, property theft has gone down 20%. Our police department also hosts 2 academies for Broomfield residents, the BPD Inside Academy and the BPD Inside Teen Academy. These academies provide the experience to know a little more what it's like to be a police officer in the areas, such as SWAT, crime scene investigation, K-9, school resource officers, investigations, and detentions. They also offer the opportunity to interact with members of the police department, which can enhance our partnerships with the community. And the Broomfield Police Department participates in several drives to benefit local children and families in need, including the Santa Cops Christmas and Backpack Drive for a Precious Child. And this year, they're conducting even more ongoing engagement efforts to listen to the community in order to understand what the department is doing well, identify opportunities for improvement, and learn how the community wants to engage with them. The first phase of this engagement effort was an online survey just completed on March 15. The next phase consists of the police department embarking on in-person listening sessions to hear directly from the residents about their experiences, concerns, and impressions of the police. These listening sessions are meant to be a time for the Broomfield Police to hear from all in the community and those often not reached. It's a critical step in building and fostering a partnership with everyone. And right now, the plan is to host 5 listening sessions between May and July on different days to make it convenient for folks. More information on those listening sessions will be coming out later in the spring, and we hope you can attend one. Next slide, continuing with our amazing police department. They know how important the role of community engagement is regarding public safety. And I know you probably can't read that very small chart, but as I've pointed out, they feel like being able to maintain an overall lower crime rate per population compared to other metro area agencies is something that we can be proud of. The table you're seeing on this slide is the data that the U.S. Department of Justice compiled of crime statistics for cities in the Colorado Front Range with population over 30,000. As you can see, the blue row on the bottom that shows Broomfield is the second safest city in the Colorado Front Range. Our chief shared this data with City Council and in her public safety presentation. So it makes me feel really safe to know that. Next slide, please. Our Senior Services Division offers many support services for our very active senior community. They partner with various CCOB divisions and departments, including housing, public health, adult protective services, information technology, communications, the diversity, equity, inclusions team, the library, the police department, sustainability, and fitness to meet the needs of this segment of our community. A few of our more popular programs include special events at the Lakeshore Cafe, and these consistently draw impressive attendance with around 150 attendees per event, selling out a month in advance. We have Easy Ride transportation, which I can attest is a lifesaver. In 2023, we provided an outstanding 18,415 rides, ensuring seniors can access their essential services and be with their community. Living in Balance Resource Fair is another program that has 60+ vendors and approximately 350 attendees, and it remains a vital community outreach effort. We also have the very popular Trips and Tours program, and it has such a high demand that they've had to implement a lottery system to ensure fair access for all Broomfield seniors. When my mother-in-law was asking me to sign her up for things because she couldn't use the computer, I would get on right at 8 a.m., like when the registration's open, and try to get as many as possible. So I had an advantage. So I'm glad they switched to the lottery. It's more fair. Our accessibility and outreach efforts continue to expand with translation of materials and further website accessibility to engage stakeholders citywide and take down barriers. CCOB has a transit needs assessment going on, and the participation of our Senior Services Division in this assessment helps identify the transit gaps and develop actionable steps for the future. And putting the time into the research, the feedback we receive from our annual surveys directly informs our programming and service commitments. And we have to mention our volunteers. We have more than 100 volunteers regularly helping with the programs in senior services who play a crucial role in supporting the initiatives. And thank you, Senior Resources Board. There are many markers, next slide please, that can point to the health of an organization, and Broomfield strives to surpass them. The city and county's turnover rate decreased by 2.7% in 2023, which is approximately 3% less than the average for governmental agencies throughout the Denver-Boulder area. We attribute it to a competitive compensation philosophy to attract and retain top talent, and that has helped us in the past year. We also want to make sure our employees have an opportunity for personal and professional development and growth. So we provide our Development, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, in partnership with Human Resources and IT, rolled out Broomfield's first ever learning management system in January 2023. This makes learning and development more accessible to CCOB and staff. And as of December 1st, more than 6,100 training hours were completed. The annual target was just 3,800, so they're overachievers. The Broomfield Police Department completed 125 hours of training per officer, and the national average is only 21 hours per year. So the Colorado Post requires 24 hours of training, and again, they overachieved. Next slide, please. As we look ahead, we all know how critical financial sustainability and resilience are to everyone, and that's why the city and county of Broomfield strives for it as well. It means maintaining our excellent bond rating, strengthening our tax base, and continuing to build our reserve balance. As we talked about earlier, we've seen our population to continue to grow over the last 10 years. And you know that Broomfield's estimated population growth over the next 3 to 5 years will be about another 5,000 people. So our infrastructure to support that needs to keep up. And we've got our priorities set on that. So shoring up Broomfield's infrastructure will be and remain a top priority. Next slide, please. I'd like to thank you all for your continued support and in closing, share some examples of your engagement that makes us better. We now have more than 5,000 engaged residents who provide their feedback and make their voice heard on many of the projects we're working on through the Broomfield Voice online engagement tool. We have more than 44,000 subscribers to our electronic newsletters and more than 121,000 followers on our social media platforms. We continue to have record turnouts for our in-person special events like Brouhaha, Summer Concert Series, and of course, Broomfield Days. And finally, a stat that really shows how much Broomfielders are involved in their community. We had 845 volunteers contribute over 30,000 hours of service to different programs for the city and county of Broomfield in 2023. These are the things that truly show us to be a tight-knit community of neighbors helping neighbors. Next slide, please. So thank you all again for coming to hear the update and the programs that we offer, as well as the support we get from our businesses and our residents. It all comes together, and I just feel like the luckiest person in the world being able to represent us and be your mayor. So thank you, and I'm happy to take questions. Any questions? Yes. We'll give you a microphone so we can hear the question.
Did you say that are there 8,000 miles of trails, or was it acres?
It was acres. Miles of trails, I don't know that offhand, but it's a lot. I mean, every community has trails.
Oh, okay.
City Manager Hoffman said we have more trails than paved roads in terms of length. So that doesn't surprise me. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with this place. I wasn't sure what it was, but it was just felt so wide open. And I like that.
Thank you, Mayor Castriota. Sorry I was late, and you may have covered this earlier, but
You didn't miss much.
I know that the state of our infrastructure has been a concern. I'm curious about the prospects for that. Well, I saw the budget. I didn't review it in detail, but how are we doing on making progress and improving our infrastructure?
Great question. So on infrastructure, we have to prioritize just like everything else. We have a long list of capital improvement projects that's programmed out for 5 years. So they're all scored based on, is it an emergency? Is it a health and safety issue? And that's kind of how our current budget is being categorized. Is it a mandate? Is it an obligation? Is it a critical infrastructure thing? So we just have to prioritize and tackle the most severe issues first. But yep, we do have a lot of aging infrastructure now that we've, reached our 65th birthday almost since becoming a city, and 23 years since becoming a county. So a lot of this stuff is just like your house, time to replace it. I know. That's just, oh, sorry.
Yes, I think that concluding slide was Sienna Lake.
Yep.
When will that be filled again?
Well, so for those of you who don't know, the Sienna Reservoir had to be drained because we're actually going to use it as a reservoir, and it needed a pump station. So that's what's being installed over there. ETA on completion, Lori probably knows, or Bruce. Do you? 2026? End of 2026. It will be a pond again. Yeah. Wait.
Miles of trails, 290. Masters.
So our economist Jeff Romine said that we have 290 miles of trails and 200 miles of streets. So trails beat streets. Anyone else? All right, well, wonderful. Ben.
Just give us an update a little bit. You talked about town center.
Oh, Broomfield Town Square. Yeah, did y'all? I would love to. We approved the site development plan last year. So we gave them the green light. They have all the approvals. So now it's a very complicated project with many different phases and levels. So financing for a project takes long like that anyway, but because of the market, because of the high interest rates and the cost of construction materials and labor, they're not going to break ground this year. It's going to sit. So we did replace the roof on the Safeway because we still have to maintain that asset until the developer takes it over. And we have to get through some winters. So protecting that asset is something we had to do. And we also wrapped it with a little graphic so folks could maybe see that something is going there. It's not just sitting. And that is probably the most popular question I get is what's going on with the Safeway. So since we wrapped it, I've gotten less questions. Yes, sir.
Does the county have an obligation in the resettlement of, or the settlement of our immigrants who are coming in? Or is that a state obligation?
It's actually neither. It is a federal issue that can only be solved with Congress or the president. A lot of the folks that are coming here from El Paso, they're in a kind of a status where they can't work. They can't apply for work permits. So it's unfortunate that there's really not much we can do to help them until they have their hearings. They're coming here in just great numbers, not to Broomfield as much, but it isn't something that we're required to do, nor do we have the power to do it. It is a federal issue. And I know that, they're talking about passing legislation like immigration reform bills, but I don't think anything's been done. All right. Oh, you got one? Oh. Okay, well, thank you for being so gracious and for coming tonight. And you can always reach us, via email, on the phone. I do answer my own phone. So if you have anything that comes up later, please feel free to reach out. And thank you all for being such amazing people.